Good afternoon. As you know that they are always quorum calls, so by the 13th or 14th minute we may have to leave you for a while. Thank you for coming. We are here to look back at the work carried out by us in this legislative year. During this session, we had a record of 100 meetings, spending about 214 hours. In fact, it is a record high. The largest number of meetings and the longest number of hours. Last year, 85 meetings and 180 hours. So this is a new record. Among the many meetings, 88 meetings were for the purpose of scrutinizing financial proposals from the government, using 176 hours. 135 financial proposals have been looked at, approving 134 of them and rejecting one of them. 5 had yet to be scrutinized. 70 public works projects were approved, and last year there were only 63. The total amount of commitment was $88 billion. 32 of them were establishment proposals, 11 last year, and 32 non-public works financial proposals last year. 26. A number of major financial proposals have been approved, like the formation of the Information Technology Bureau, and then the endowment fund for the Hospital Authority, as well as the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge Hong Kong boundary crossing facilities. To scrutinize the 2016-17 estimates, between the 1st and the 8th of April, we held 21 sessions of the special FC meeting, and we met with the controllers and the bureau representatives, and we played the role of a gatekeeper. You know that we scrutinized a large number of items. Some of them were complicated and controversial. We had to deal with many procedural matters. It was very eventful, and some members had even moved a motion of a no-confidence vote in relation to myself and the deputy chair. I have always been following strictly the rules of procedures and the FC procedures. I would like to strike a balance. I would like to give members sufficient time to raise questions and give comments. At the same time, I want to adopt an orderly, efficient, and fair manner in chairing the meetings. It's only when members' speech or behavior obviously obstruct the FC from discharging its functions, then I have to control the proceedings in a proper, reasonable manner. I've always advocated harmony. I would like to advocate communication between the administration and the different camps, both at meetings and outside of meetings. In April this year, the administration has started to adopt a new approach that is dealing with the easier items first. I think the government is being responsive. Now we are towards the end of this term. I have to express my gratitude towards the Deputy Chair, Mr. Chen Kem-lam. He has encountered a lot of hardship when he stood in for me to chair the meetings concerning the Express Rail. I'm grateful to members for taking a very active part and adopting a serious attitude in scrutinizing the proposals so that we can play the role of a gatekeeper. And I'm grateful to the legal advisor as well as other staff of the Secretariat for the hard work, and they've been providing professional support in our heavy agendas, and they have been unbiased, they have been professional. Thank you very much. Feel free to ask questions. I think we can hand out my speech in both languages to the members of the press so that they don't have to worry even if they can't jot down everything. Sorry, speaker is off mic. Sorry, speaker is off mic. You know that for this year, we have a general election, and therefore many things have become politicized. The Innovation Technology Bureau, the Express Rail, as well as the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge are the three major items. Now, many members have become more and more vulgar in their remarks made against the chair as well as the administration. Some of them have aired unjustifiable and unreasonable allegations. As the chair, I can try to turn a blind eye to it, but I don't think this is the right way to to conduct our meetings, I have to point out that this is not right, and we have to let the citizens understand the truth. I don't think we should just go after expediency and try to finish the meetings. In fact, we have to be clear about our rules of procedures. We have to tell the public whether the allegations from some members are true or not. So it is important to clarify. Now, many members have said that we can only stop a member from speaking when they are repeating themselves or deviating from the main topic. But then we have a volume of rules of procedures, so it is more than that. It is clear that the chair has the need to balance between their right to speak and the need to conduct our meetings in a fair, open, and orderly manner. The court has also pointed out that the chairman has the right to stop the proceedings, but despite my repetitive reminders, they have always said that is not the case. So they are sort of reversing the requirements, and that's why it has been a hard time for me. At the same time, I want to say that there is something that I don't quite like to see happen. Some members, for their own political motives, and when they cannot get the recognition from the government, they would turn a blind eye to it, and they would dwell on it, and they would ignore the right of the majority of members who would like to put an item to the vote. This is selfish, and I have to condemn this kind of approach.
Have I answered all the questions? What about next time? I'm still actively considering whether to run in the election. That's something that I'm doing. And as to whether I will take this post again, well, for me, it takes someone who is very committed. Well, you have to have backbone, because you need to sit there for many hours without suffering from a back pain, and you have to be resilient to in the face of pressure from all fronts. And it takes someone who knows how to turn the pressure into drive. In my experience, a lot of people use hurting words on me, but at the same time, I have come across a lot of members of the public who come to wish me luck, to say that I have done a good job and I should keep it up. And I really appreciate these kind words. My work has been done, and I feel relieved. However, I am not happy because, as I could see, that well, we've spent a lot of time on discussion on a number of items, and yet we're made not to vote on it. We have to be decisive. We have to make decisions. You can vote for or against it. This is your responsibility. Why do you want to obstruct other people from performing their duties? And what I don't like to see is that we have done all the discussions, and towards the end, if someone voice an opposition, an objection, then suddenly that person will change his mind. You can't just trim your sails to the wind. You need to lead the mass, the public, instead of being led by them, by the nose. And what I don't like to see is that Hong Kong is torn, seriously torn. This is an election year. There are a lot of controversies. Maybe that's the reason. Stephen, you asked me if I wish to be re-elected. I want to give newcomers a chance. It's a difficult task which takes commitment. I am not daunted. You need to be very familiar with the rules. But I'd like to give a word of advice to the future chairman. First, expect that some members know only some of the rules of procedures, but they thought they know a lot and they keep challenging you. And you need to be very patient to deal with them. And as I said, that Well, you have to be prepared to sit for a very long time. I've sat in a meeting for 8 hours. Well, you will be happy if you remember that the public pin their hopes on you.
Question is, as you just mentioned, several legislators.
你而家講緊英文係嘛？我聽唔到啊。
Yeah, sorry. As several legislators have issued no confidence motion several times.
I really can't hear you. 有冇辦法開大聲啲？
It's okay. Okay. As in the past years, several legislators have put forward the no confidence motions in the past for several times. So. What do you feel about that? And my second question is, what's your words of encouragement for the upcoming chairman? And the third question is whether both of you have the interest to chair the committee in the coming year.
I think we have this non-competent motion voted, and I think the Legislative Council has spoken. So obviously we have the motion was voted down, so it speaks for itself. My word of encouragement to anyone that would become the chairman in future is very simple: is that if you always have this Hong Kong citizen in mind, then no matter what kind of pressure, what kind of hardship you're facing, you will be more relieved. And my own experience is that the Hong Kong people are really trying to support those Legislative Council in different ways. Many people wrote to me. They actually signed by the whole family. There are people giving me the light, and also whenever I walk in the street or even in the lifts, there's a lot of people coming to me saying that add oil, which is very strange. I don't think we really have the word add oil in English, but I think this is a sort of encouragement and support. And your last question is, what's the last one? Yes. Oh, yeah. Mr. Chen, I guess he has decided not to seek for election. For me, I'm seriously considered to be elected because there's a lot of support from the industry, and I'm still counting my votes, whether I have more than half of the vote before I decided whether I would move ahead. But I would definitely make a very clear decision next week. Okay, 就冇邊位？係。
經濟部。
Hong Kong Economic Times. Filibustering in the Finance Committee. How much is it related to the relationship between the executive and the legislature? You said that after April, the government has changed the order of business, putting easier proposals at the beginning. How effective has it been? Do you think the government should continue with this approach? It's a good thing to put easier proposals at the beginning, but it's not as easily done as you think. Because at the beginning, there will be easier proposals and they are voted on, endorsed. Say, for example, in the recent meetings, we had 8 hours. We thought that everything could be done and it would be smooth sail. However, there are 4 to 5 proposals that were difficult in the eyes of legislators, but that is not the case in the eyes of the government. There are about 20 pan-democrats. Well, if a handful of them think it is a thorny issue, then the whole proposal becomes difficult. And the approach of easier ones goes first will fail. So is it the case that, well, if 90% of members think is easy, then it's easy? But as you can see that in the meeting, only 2 or 3 members kept asking questions. But when the chairman interfered, then the chairman was criticized for not having the right to do so. Well, the court has made a very clear ruling. Repetitive and irrelevant questions should not be made. They are not familiar with the rules of procedure. They pretend to know the ROP well. It makes things difficult. And it really frustrates the government when they endeavor to negotiate. And sometimes government will change its stance to more hardline one. I do believe that there will be even more radical legislators coming in, but it's not too pessimistic. We have procedures. Well, when they make mistakes, when they know that there are actually procedures and rules in place, then they will learn. At the beginning, it will be difficult for everyone because we need to get used to this group of new legislators, and they will have to get used to our procedures and rules. We have to put our efforts in to work on these issues. What we see recently is that sometimes pan-democrats, I think it's nothing to do with them. Then they don't have the duty to stay in a meeting. As a result, meetings were aborted. I do hope that more loyalists will join, say for example 30 of them, so that we will have enough quorum. We can't compete with time. If you give me another 10 hours, I will be able to have everything approved. However, like our last meeting, in the last hour, there are 15 members who wanted to speak, and it would take 150 minutes. I cannot ignore the rules of procedure, and I cannot stop them asking questions. Someone asked me to stop them, to stop the filibustering. Well, you must be understanding that there are many considerations. I cannot tarnish the reputation of the LegCo. Perhaps the Deputy Chair can answer some questions?
Yes, I would like to talk about the approach of getting on the easier proposal first. I think it is an excuse, really an excuse. Who can define what is an easy item and what is not? When a proposal comes to the FC, it has to go through a number of steps. First of all, say for example, it has to be examined by like the development panel or other panels. So first of all, an item must have the support of the panel meetings, and then the matter can be taken one level up, like the Public Works Subcommittee, and then it will move up to the agenda of the FC. In other words, there are many steps that you have to complete. So what is meant by an easy item, what is meant by a difficult item? You can't simply say that it is at the mercy of members who will support it or not. Now, we're talking about items that have cleared many other hurdles before coming to the FC. For all such items, we are duty-bound to look at them and see if we approve them. In previous meetings, we can see for ourselves that for each an item before the FC, sometimes it may be highly technical or it may be very much complicated. They are all highly related to livelihood. None of them is not related to livelihood, and none of them is so difficult that we need a lot of time, or it has to be relegated to the last item on the agenda. If we talk about moving it to the back of the queue, it means that to some members they would rather not deal with it. Now, in this session, we have had a few items which cannot be voted on. I think this is a matter of the FC failing in its duty. We have let the people down. In fact, for each and every item, we're supposed to complete the procedures. Let's take a look at the outstanding items. They have all got to do with public works projects or establishment proposals. With one item being left on the agenda, it means that some public works projects have to be held back, or an establishment proposal has to be shelved. Who else would like to ask questions? Hong Kong Economic Journal. You have criticized members for being unreasonable, but what about the administration? You have talked about the difficulty of defining what is an easy item, but before the administration proposes an item, shouldn't the administration have got more discussion with the members? I was merely referring to a handful of members who are unreasonable. Now, you need to understand that it is difficult to endorse policies. This is because there is a high degree of public engagement. I think the administration has to be prepared for the following scenario. Nothing happened during the consultation, but when the matter is put to the vote, then there will be a lot of voices. For the government that is that is aware of the public sentiments, I think the government should know how to explain a matter to the public. You can't simply just count on the number of votes needed to pass an item. You need to do all your work. You need to do all your homework before coming to the LegCo. Now, even though we are talking about a handful of members, you can't ignore them because it is contagious and this may spread to other members. And in this way, it means that it is difficult to launch the policies. Let me give you a piece of my experience. I used to work with a German firm. The Germans were surprised as to why we were so efficient so fast. And then they said that in a few years' time, when there is a greater degree of democracy, then things would slow down. I think this is a fact. I think the administration isn't well prepared. The government has always said that it will stand firm till the end. I think this is not always the best way. You need to have some leeway. It is difficult, of course. Let me talk about my personal experience. On this occasion, a member said that, and through a third party, that is, if members don't need to attend a Saturday meeting, then all the items will be passed. Well, that member didn't take part in the filibustering, though I have agreed to do what he has proposed. But he asked somebody else to filibuster. So in a way, I've been deceived by him. So my advice for my successor is that don't take others' words so easily. I think the best weapon is time. You need to spend more time. You need to spend more of your own time. It is important to give the floor to members to speak. Maybe we should think of a way to reform the PwC as well as the ESC. Perhaps we should combine or merge the committees into one. Now, lately, we have talked about the district council items. 4 hours have been spent. It seems that we just do it afresh. Time is precious. You have to count on the establishment camp, and they have been locked up here and they're not able to do any electioneering work. It is unfair to them. So we need to be bold in our reform proposals. Maybe after the matter has been discussed by, say, the PwC, we just put the matter to the vote. This is because we don't follow the original spirit of the setup. For the Lantau proposal, 5 hours have already been spent, and yet we were not able to vote on it. But of course, both the administration as well as the legislature have to bear some responsibilities. The administration should have done a better job in terms of lobbying. The greater the support, the better, and the administration must be prepared for both sorts of scenarios. So you need to have a contingency plan in case the government cannot get it through. I think the administration has done a lot of lobbying, but then when it comes to the voting, when it comes to the deliberation, we just can't avoid filibustering from some members of the legislature. So when we talk about the possibility of reforming the ESC or the PwC, well, in fact, nowadays you can see that many members have abused the two subcommittees. The two subcommittees have been formed for the purpose of assisting the Finance Committee to look at public works projects as well as establishment proposals. Well, generally speaking, when an item has been approved at the subcommittee level, then basically there's no need for further discussion at an FC meeting. But nowadays, the procedures have been abused, and basically each and every item has been discussed once again when it is before the FC. So perhaps if we look at a reform, we should be looking at the two subcommittees to see what we can do so as to avoid having to repeat the discussion all the time, and this is stalling the progress and affecting the efficiency. I've omitted a important point. The quality of the answers from officials is important. Now, sometimes you see that the quality is good and members should not query. But members are always saying that the officials are making mistakes, they're in the wrong. If someone has committed a mistake, admit it, and then it's fine. I've asked the Chief Secretary to see if there can be a training session so that the smart ones can coach the not so smart ones. I'm frustrated. There are officials who are able to answer questions in a very good manner, like lately someone from the DSD.
There are members who are very able and who are very professional. Well, I hope that there are some training sessions for civil servants to train them to speak. They sometimes send people who are not articulated and never answer questions. The Finance Committee is very important. I hope the government will attach more importance to it by having more quality officials sitting in meetings. Well, sometimes a legislator who hasn't even read any of the documents could challenge a government official. So the government should enhance the abilities of government officials in these meetings.
The policy of the strategy of having the less controversial topic to be discussed first that start in April is a way that to improve the efficiency in Finance Committee. So do you think that, can you talk a little more about should it be formulated as a mechanism in the coming year? And the second question is how to improve the efficiency of Finance Committee.
The problem with this system is that in the very early stage, when everyone and the relationship is in harmony, then it is really easy to say there are many items that are easy that should be passed without too much discussion. But very soon, you will find that because of one or two legislative council member in the opposition camp thinks that it is that is important to them, or the government is not following their request, then they make it difficult. They turn it in difficult. So the problem is, who is the fair judge to say whether this should be an easy item or a difficult item? So normally it is not the government. Normally it's the opposition camp. So very soon it is not only it can be only one or two or few would affect the other elected council members. So it is originally easy would turn into a difficult one to the surprise of everyone. So this system can only be used sometime. For me, I would say probably at the last final stage when you are faced with situation where you are going to take it or leave it, then you can use that system. I don't think it can be a very normal thing to really do it. 我想提一提大家咧，嗱，睇政府真係都要。
But let me remind you that perhaps the government would think that, well, it's just one or two members who are opposed to it, but it is contagious because when some members are opposed to it, others may be affected and change their mind. I can deal with 2 or 3 people filibustering, but it's very difficult if 20 of them engage in filibustering. Unless we have, say, 20 hours, say, for example, Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge or XRL project, if I have 20 or 30 hours, I can show to the court that they have exceeded the time that they should have. And I have to be confident that my decision to cut the filibustering will be supported by the court before I do it. It is very difficult to deal with having less members engaging in filibustering.
How should be the efficiency can be improved as the government take the responsibility, like to have more ally for support before the bill is put to the committee?
It is not something that really the chairman can do without the help of the all the other legislative council members. I think they have to understand that they have to really understand our rules and procedures and not always argue with the chairman. They have to understand that the chairman really have the power or our authority from the court saying that he can adjourn the discussion and put forward the motion for vote. So if they don't believe in that and they think they have the chairman has very limited power, then I don't think we will have any chance. But of course, if the government can do everything publicly so that there are really very little concern from the citizen, very little concern from the council member, of course, then our legislative council member would become normal people, would become reasonable people. But if they are, if they do it, they don't do the job well, then we have a problem. And also, as I mentioned just now in Chinese, the quality of the answer from the legal answer is also a key success factor for us to conduct the meeting more smoothly. Because if he can answer the question directly and clearly, then it makes me easier to say that the legal council member is repeating the same question, which is not allowed. So I hope I can answer your question. But it is still something that I would have to think very hard if I ever have any time to think about it. Not only for myself, but for anyone that's going to be the next chairman. Hi, go ahead.
I have a question for the chairman and the deputy chairman about your views on project cost overrun. Say, for example, when the deputy chairman conducted a meeting on the supplementary provision of the high-speed rail, it gave the impression that they have already got involved and they have to give more money to finish the job. This is very controversial. Yes, you're right. We are already involved. 70% of the project has been completed. Do you just leave it in this mess, or are you going to give them more money to complete the project by giving them another $20 billion? If you've had your home renovated, you know that it's very easy to see project overrun. But you wouldn't just leave it like that without injecting more money. So it's just like your home. Of course, we don't allow the government to let it happen repeatedly. Say, for example, if drilling is poorly done, they have to make sure that it's properly done. Well, the government will have to make sure to state clearly how the mistakes should be avoided. I think they have dedicated meetings and teams to look into that to prevent the same problem from happening. I think they endeavor to improve the situation. I defer to the deputy chairman. I don't think anyone would want to see project cost overrun or delay. But when the government seeks supplementary provision, as I've said, they have to go through a few stages to the panel, to the transport panel, to the subcommittee on matters related to railway. They have done all the preparatory work. In relation to the high-speed rail project, when they come to the finance committee, you see that members have been asking repetitive questions. Do you know how much time I have given it? 29 hours. Much longer than the Kong Kong Zhuhai Macau Bridge project. And if you say there's not enough time for members to ask questions, that is not the case. They have sufficient time to ask questions. In relation to section Rule 37A, we have received over 1,537A motions and have approved over 40 of them. So you see that there is sufficient time for everyone to express their views, whether you are for or against the project. Everyone had a chance to state their views. And in relation to project overrun and delay, I think the government has learned a lesson. Whether it is the MTRCL, the government's independent investigation, or LegCo's select committee, they've looked into the cause, and we know about the result. As the chairman said, the project has been completed to about 70%. Shouldn't we keep going ahead? And I do believe that the public will have an answer whether the project should go ahead. Any other questions? No, thank you. Meeting adjourned.